Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Through the Fire. I am your host, Ryan Wickline, and today we are joined by a very special guest. He is a Marine, an author, and a leadership coach, Mr. Olaolu Ogunyemi. How you doing today, Olaolu?
I'm doing well, Ryan. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm kind of very fascinated about this subject, leadership. I mean, that's one of the subjects that really fascinates me.
Yeah, same. And it's been something that I've learned a lot from. I grew up in a big family, and one of the things my parents used to emphasize is finding ways to lead not just yourself, but to lead others. So I'm very excited to talk about it because it's been something that's been emphasized my entire life.
Yeah. So the number one question the audience is probably wondering, who is Olaolu Ogunyemi?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a United States Marine. I'm a major in the United States Marine Corps. I am an author. I've written three children's books. The first being Crow from the Shadow, and actually won an award, which I was very happy about. The other two are Billy Dipper's Time to Shine and Horse the Horsefly. I wrote those children's books because I wanted to find a way to help parents, teachers, mentors, caregivers connect with their children and lead them. Because what I realized is that our generations are starting to miss something, and really that it's that link between the adult and the child. So finding ways to get the community back in our children's lives. So that's really the biggest thing that I've been working on the last several years. Again, as active duty Marine, I've had the opportunity to work with some phenomenal people and learn a lot as a leader and learn a lot as a follower as well. So that's really who Olaolu is. I'm a family man. I have a wife and three kids, a 16-year-old girl, 11-year-old boy, and a 6-year-old girl. I love them to death. They take the rest of my time outside of the Marine Corps and Parent Child Connect. So that's really a lot about me.
Awesome. I love it. Now, I've seen somewhere that you've mentioned that you could have easily ended up in prison or worse if not for some key influences in your life. What turned things around for you?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is not my father not giving up on me and the community of men who surrounded me, knowing that I was hanging with the wrong crowd, but I just wanted to fit in, and I think that's really the biggest thing: wanting to fit in, wanting to be that guy who never gives. You know how you have that insecurity, and you want to just be somebody who's never going to back down from a challenge, or somebody who's never going to allow them to say, "Oh, you're scared," or "you're a wimp," and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to prove that I was a man. I wanted to prove that I was tough. And honestly, that was leading me down a very dark path, a strange path. But again, it's the men in my life who stepped up to the plate and said, "Hey, man, this isn't life. You know you're better than this." And they just kept working with me and working with me. And I will say that that's really the thing that turned it around. It's having people continually stay in my ear and coach me through these things, these rough times that I had as a child. Of course, it came down to me finally maturing. But they really were the people who stood in the gap for me and helped me through these situations and all these transitions in my life before I can mature and make my own smart decisions.
Yeah, I think a lot of boys and men have been down that path where we kind of get led astray and get around the wrong crowd and kind of some of us mature later and some of us not at all.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right, and that's the tough part about being a man because it's that effect. We really want to be in charge. We want to make sure that we're like leveling other people up. If one guy goes this far, then you know what? I got to go a little bit further because it's a competition, and that's just the nature of being a young man and trying to find your way. But yeah, you're right. It's just that's just I think that's part of growing up. But the other part is having somebody who's coaching you in your corner and working with you until you learn that hey, this truly is not the right way, and your decisions today, especially as a teenager, and where I was making most of my silly mistakes and decisions, some of those can impact you for the rest of your life. There are federal crimes that impact you for the rest of your life, and yeah, that's something that we just had to learn. Not
Yeah.
everything is mischievous and just boys being boys. Some things you just have to learn.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, how much do you think, like a lot of the problems we have today with a lot of youth stems from not having a father figure or a male role model around?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And we should never underestimate the power that the male role model plays in the home, in the school, and so on and so forth. For one, It's just it's understanding each other. I think there's certain things that men can understand each other that, and it's no disrespect to women. My mom was a very powerful role model in my life, but there's just certain things that men understand about each other and that we're able to connect with that it just doesn't exist with the opposite sex. And then I realized in my own life, that my father being there was the difference in my life and my friends' lives, and by far. And I watched the teachers tell my friends, hey, you know what, go to the back of the classroom. But I could literally be doing the same thing. You know, they could be standing, we both be standing on the desk together, swinging from the chandeliers. And then, you know, they'll look at him, tell him to get to the back of the classroom. They'll look at me and say, do you want me to call your dad? And just having that figure there, that person who can come in the room, he was 5'7", probably all of 150. But man, if he entered the room, he filled the room. He might as well have been like Shaq size, right? Just that's just who he was. And I 100% agree that if it worked for him in my life, and again, it's no disrespect to my mother or my sisters, but if it weren't for him and my brothers constantly coaching me through it and giving me that knock across the head when I needed it because they knew they understood what I was going through, I don't know where I would be, quite honestly. But I believe that a lot of times, a lot of issues we see is because the fathers are either disengaged or they're just not around. And I believe that having those fathers and male role models in people's lives is crucial to growing young people.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I know I've, from my own personal experiences, not having a father figure around in my life kind of led me astray too at times. You know, you always have that father sized hole in your heart.
Mhm. Yeah, and I've watched it in guys, young men that I've mentored, and it's sort of strange in some ways because they never know when you're talking to them, they never know what they're truly missing. But you just have to keep working with them and working with them because it's not something. And in most cases that I've recognized, a lot of these young men are not going to even tell you they're missing something. They don't feel like they're missing something, and it's because the mother is working hard. She is putting
Yeah.
in a lot of work working for two people that she shouldn't have to do that, you know, and that's one of the things that that the young men are feeling. They're like, well, I don't think I'm missing anything. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. But it's that thing that's happening in the back of their minds where they're like, man, you know what? I wish my dad was pushing me through football and whatever else that may be. And those little things, it really plays on the mind. And I think that's where a lot of young men have grown because they had community. And I believe your story is a prime example of somebody who's turned that around. So, I mean, we should be
Yeah.
asking you what you did and how you were able to do it.
A lot of God.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So, what led you to join the Marines and become an officer?
Yeah. So what's funny is I'm one of the guys, and I always credit the Marine Corps recruiting because they did a phenomenal job of recruiting me. Man, they came and got me in my living room is what I feel like they did because I watched the commercials and I saw all these wonderful things. And again, it goes back to that competitive spirit. I was around Army my entire life. I didn't know any Marines. In fact, I tell people all the time, the only two Marines I knew were Major Payne and Gunny Ermey from Full Metal Jacket. So those are the only two Marines I knew. But yet there was something about the commercials, something about that fraternity, something about the I guess the challenge that Marines carried and the way they carried themselves and talked about not just the work that they were doing, because all branches were deploying and doing combat operations, but it was talking about that man and woman to their left and right and how they relied on each other and they loved each other. It just resonated with me. So that was the biggest thing. It resonated with me. The way the Marine Corps talked about loving each other and being there for each other. It was a no-brainer for me when I walked into the recruiter's office. A little known fact, I actually accidentally walked into the Air Force office and they said, we think you're looking for that one. They pointed me towards the Marine Corps. So I don't know what that meant. I don't know if they just saw me and they're like, yeah, this guy probably has a couple of screws loose. But that was my recruiting from the Air Force. Army actually did a very phenomenal job of trying to recruit me, but it didn't work out that well. To join and become an officer, that goes back to my parents sort of coaching me through and saying, hey, man, we want you to, finish school, go to college. It was like the deal I made with them because when I first said I was going to join, I joined with the full intentions of becoming an infantryman and going directly to Iraq. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to prove myself in a way. I wanted to go out and show my uncle fought in Vietnam, and it was little things like that. I just wanted to be part of this legacy that these men were leaving behind. And so I decided to join. But my parents told me, hey, man, you know what? You're in school, you're in college, finish school, look into the officer program, and so on and so forth. And the rest is history. And that's why I joined the Marine Corps and specifically became an officer, is because I was coached and mentored in that direction.
Man, that looks like everything turned out all right for you, though, in the end, becoming an officer.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those things that, again, when they started talking about what it meant to be an officer and what it meant to lead others, number one, it was a huge responsibility. And I was like, man, that's something that I had to pause. And I was like, do I really want that burden? Because that's what I felt like it was. And to be honest with you, we call that a burden of command. It's like, do I truly want that burden of knowing that I have another young man or young woman's life in my hand and my decisions, and I can make the wrong decision and it could end someone's life. I was like, do I truly want that burden? And then I got to the point to where I was like, well, if not you, then who? And that's really what it boiled down to. It's like, well, if you truly care about them, you really want to invest in their lives, you truly care about them the way that you care about your own brothers, I promise you that you'll be wanting to bring them home, and every decision you make will be measured against with the same measuring stick that you would for your brothers or sisters. And so once I made that decision, I was like, yeah, the rest, I have to do everything that I can to take care of my Marines. And to this day, that's something I take seriously. I do my best to take care of them and look out for their well-being, regardless of what's going on. So yeah, I will say it has worked out for me, and I've enjoyed it so far.
Great. That's awesome. Have you ever been deployed?
Yes, I have. I've had the opportunity to go to, let's see, Kuwait. I've been to Afghanistan. I've been to Naples, Italy, and as recent as last year, I was on the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit, and so we went and sailed the Eastern Mediterranean, and we really were focusing on the problem there going on near Lebanon, and then we ended up coming back home. So it was about somewhere between 6 to 8 months, I believe, float time. It's my first time being on ship, so it was a good experience, but a lot of learning occurred. So yes, I've had the opportunity to deploy.
Well, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you.
How has your experience as a Marine officer shaped the way you lead at home and in your community?
Phenomenal question. So for one, I learned how different people are. And that's the wonderful thing about being in the Marine Corps, is people from every walk of life. And I was talking to this guy, he's a master gunnery sergeant. He's one of the best guys I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And it was just funny. We came from two different places and we were having a conversation about, he's from Georgia in a small town, and I'm from Louisiana, a small town. And it couldn't have been a better example of being on the other side of the tracks growing up. But we ended up in the same place, learning how to work together. And it was just a cool experience. And what that taught me is that every single person is different. And if I can learn how to lead people differently in the Marine Corps, where they come from every different walk of life, I still can bring that same thing home and learn how to lead my children differently. Because all three of these children, regardless of where they came from, or how much they act like their mom, acts like me, all of them are different, and they have to be led differently. They all require different time spent doing different things. And that's one of the biggest things the Marine Corps taught me. It's learning how to understand who the person is, and then allowing them to teach you how to lead them. And that's one of the biggest things from there, learning about people and understanding how to lead them best. I learned how important empathy is, and learning how important it is to understand not just who the person is or what their background is, but understand why they make the decisions they make, and understand what their emotions are in the moment when they're making decisions and working through life in context, right? So it's one of those things that it's like being in the Marines, being an officer in the Marine Corps just it's like a continual learning thing for me. And it goes back and forth between the Marine Corps, learning from my Marines at work, and then coming back home and learning from my children and my wife, and saying, okay, these are the things that worked at home that I'm trying now in the office. And man, that actually worked. I can't believe it. I'll give another example. So I learned about emotional intelligence and how to apply it from an academic perspective. And so I brought it home. I was like, man, how can I apply that in my home to help not only raise my own level of emotional intelligence, but to raise it for my children and my family? What I've quickly learned is that we don't know how to truly express our emotions. In fact, we don't know how to identify our emotions. So that was like the first thing that I wanted to make sure that we're doing in my household. And then I take that same thought process and say, okay, well, now I'm teaching them how to process their emotions and to learn how to identify their emotions. And I take that same thing to work. And now we're working in this different kind of environment. We're still focused on war fighting. And that's, I think some people forget about that when you're talking about emotional intelligence or empathy, they start thinking that, oh, well, it's becoming softer and all. No, we're still learning how we're still going to war fight. We're still going to accomplish the mission, but it's doing it from a perspective of, I know who you are and I know how to get the best out of you and make you better than you were when you first showed up, which in turn makes the mission more efficient. It makes us better at accomplishing the mission. So I would say that's really the way that I've been able to transition between the Marine Corps and home life.
Man, that's pretty deep. A lot of people do not understand like that part about it, like controlling your emotions and teaching others how to handle their emotions and to identify, hey, this isn't a good emotion to have right now. Why is this happening? Because a lot of times it's just a pattern you have, and how can you recognize it and eliminate it?
Yeah, 100%. And that's one of the things that, as you start to think about it, a lot of us, we started talking about it. When we talk about emotions, we only think of a happy, sad, depression, but there's so many more ways to identify our emotions. And if we were to stop and just Google it, I tell people this, and this is what I learned, just Google emotions and try to come up with a list. There's at least 50 that you can come up with that fall in the category of usually more of a happy or joyful time. Then there's those when you're more in the sad or upset or angry or disappointed. There's many things that we have to learn, but you're right. We just don't know how to identify it. And since we don't know how to identify it, we go through life and we have these circumstances that happen, and we're just starting to say, well, I'm upset. Well, and then you try and imagine now trying to take that same thing and you're trying to explain now to your significant other, or you're trying to explain to someone else that you're upset about something. And what does that mean to them? Now, they may get offended when you're literally just trying to tell them, hey, I'm disappointed that this happened in my life. And if I were to tell you that, hey, I'm disappointed that, I wasn't able to log on when I wanted to log on, that means much different things to you than it would say if I said, hey, man, I'm mad that I couldn't log on, and really I'm trying to convey the same emotion, but how I convey it, how I am able to articulate it to you matters.
Yeah. How much is it like being an officer, just like being able to maintain different egos?
Yeah, especially in the Marine Corps, right? So that's
Yeah.
one of the things like this we always talk about it. We joke and people say that, there's only one alpha male. That's just how it works in society. There's only one alpha. And some say there's no such thing. But when you have that environment where you're just full of that type A personality, yeah, you're gonna have to manage some egos. And it's sort of cool when you think about it. And maybe that's just my own personality showing. But I absolutely love working in that kind of environment, because the way I see it is you do have a lot of people who are very confident and they truly believe in themselves, and you really can't tell them anything at times until they make that mistake. And I think that's where that's the best way to do it. Is you could do the normal thing in that kind of environment. You just beat them up for making their mistakes. But in reality, when you're in a competitive environment and you learn how to turn it into healthy competition, I think that's when you can change that dynamic of just trying to manage egos and manage those, that chest thumping. You can change that into truly being competitive and truly saying that, hey, man, yesterday you were better than me. Today, I promise you, I'm going to be better. And we work together, and it's not you looking out for yourself, but it's you learning how to grow together. And I think that's really what it is. As an officer, I believe our role, as a leader in general, I believe our role is to learn how to take that environment of just managing emotions and managing egos and turn it into, hey guys, we're here to grow each other. And so we still can be cocky, we still can be confident in who we are, but we're going to do it in a way that helps that person to our left or right grow.
Yeah. I loved how you just talked right there about coming together and having a competing against one another, not in a bad way of I'm better than you, but to help each other grow. That's what the way things should be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the tough part too. It is hard to get to that point. because a lot of us, we grow up in environments where I guess the top person, it's like a dog eat dog world, right? And that's the way we've learned. And so the person who is the toughest or the person who is the smartest or the loudest may get the promotion of the job. And so it's tough to coach people when you know society is maybe train them a little bit differently. And so it's just letting them know that, hey, man, I'm going to reward the person who is growing the most people, who's creating the most leaders. And that's where I believe we have to transition our minds a little bit to say that the competition isn't necessarily about how you as an individual shines, but it's how did you make everybody else around you better? Can you measure that? Do you have quantifiable metrics to show that you just made everybody else around you better? Or do you just have quantifiables to say that you're better as an individual? And I think that's where the challenge comes in, because it still can be a competitive environment, but it's just what's the focus and who are we rewarding based upon our own thoughts about what's important.
Yeah. What led you to write your children's book, Crow from the Shadow?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for one, Crow from the Shadow was just one of the things I started writing for my kids, right? I thought it was a good idea to create a book that we can sit down and enjoy together, and we'll just love to enjoy a moment with my kids. That's really what it's about. And then I went on Amazon and I did the Kindle Direct program because I just wanted to see how cheap I can print it off and maybe create an ebook. But I just wanted to do it again for my own household. But as I started writing Crow from the Shadow, I realized it came from a personal space. Because when you look at Crow, number one, I chose a crow as the main character. So Crow is not a person who we consider a hero. Obviously, crows, when we see them, they're like picking through trash. They're making a bunch of noise. That's how we look at crows. They're almost very annoying beings on this earth. But that's one of the reasons I chose the crow. The first thing is, I think a lot of us, although we like to watch superheroes and things of that nature, a lot of us are more like the crow than we like to let off. We're just trying to survive. And that's what the crow's doing. That's why the crow's picking through the trash. That's why he's making a bunch of noise. It's just trying to survive life. And so I chose the crow for that reason. The other reason I'll explain later. But when I start talking about Crow from the Shadow is a person. It could be a place. It could be anything that's telling you that you cannot achieve what you want to achieve. So as you walk through the book, Crow from the Shadow, you'll start to see the crow is just a normal human being. It's just trying to find a way to overcome this shadow who's telling him, hey, you don't like blue, so you have to wear black, or you don't like to read because reading is boring, so on and so forth. Until in the end, he's like, wait a minute, I did achieve this already. So why am I even listening to the shadow? And then at the end, the book says, only one can determine my future. That one is me. And that's the message I want people to remember when adults or kids sit down together and they read this book. I want them to be able to look at a crow, as annoying as it may be, when it's by their back window or wherever they may be, and remember that message. Only one can determine my future. That one is me. And so that's really what Crow from the Shadow is. It came from a personal spot, a place of where a guy like me, I was told multiple times that maybe you shouldn't join the Marine Corps, or maybe you shouldn't do this, and maybe you shouldn't do that. My name is Olaolu Ogunyemi. I grew up in Ruston, Louisiana, right? And so that means that I didn't necessarily fit in, to say the least. So people made fun of everything they could. My name, I was overweight as a kid, so they made fun of my weight and all these different things. And so it always was something that I could not do. And it was always something negative. And my parents and my family always tried to pick me up. But man, when I left the threshold of my house where the safe space ended, man, people were like vicious out there, man. And so I had to learn to overcome that. And I had to learn to look at that shadow in the face. And again, the reason I chose a shadow is because we all know, though a shadow may look real, a shadow may be frightening, it's not real, right? It's just something, it's a light being cast on something else, and it's causing something else to give us the appearance that is real. So that's why I chose that book, and that's why it's such a personal story for me.
Man, I love that message. The message at the end for everybody to get, because it is so true that we dictate our own, journey and path.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that's why I love the story, because it allowed me to get into classrooms. And one of the most heartfelt things that happened It's one of my buddies I grew up with. He's been in and out of the penitentiary system. In fact, he's in right now. But I saw his nephew, and it was like a full circle moment because his mom sends me a video of him reading the book, and he looks just like him at that age. And man, I was like, wow, that's the message that this young man is now seeing. That no matter what happened, no matter who his example is, no matter how many people he may or may not have in his life, he now knows, and he's starting to internalize that he's the only one who can determine his future. And I believe that's really one of the reasons I get so excited about it. I get emotional and passionate about it because it's given me the opportunity to be in homes in a different way. It's given me an opportunity to have parents sit down or adults sit down with children and work through what is the shadow in your life. And that's one of the things that I thought was very, very interesting because children are learning that they can determine their future. But I think what's more important is when children are starting to identify the shadow to their parents or to their teacher, whoever. And you'll be surprised. I mean, people coming up with things like I talked about where, I was overweight. One child even looked at their mom and said, "Mom, you're my shadow." And man, that was a tough pill to swallow, right?
Yeah.
Because the mom is like, whoa, why would you say that? Initially, that's her initial reaction. But then she followed up and said, "You know what? I see what you mean. I'm not allowing you to do all these things because I'm trying to protect you. And I'm really, in that way, now holding you back from achieving the things that you need to achieve or want to achieve." And so,
Yeah.
man, it's been, Ryan, I'm telling you, it's been a really profound thing just seeing these parents and these adults sit down with children and pull this story apart and really relate to it and learn how to read it and apply it in context.
I love it though that the kids and parents are doing it together
Mhm.
and where they can learn from one another and they can kind of dive a little bit deeper into it. Because that's pretty profound when the kid says that, to the mom, "Hey, you're enabling me and kind of stopping me from failing and trying to protect me," which is all good. But, as a young male, we all know that failure is the best teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll be surprised that was one of the reasons I decided to self-publish, because I was reaching out to just traditional publishers and agents and all these things. And the feedback I got overwhelmingly was that that's not what traditional publishers are looking for, or at least at that time. This was about 4 years ago now. And what they said to me is that they were looking for books that children can pick up themselves. And it's almost like they want the children to come to the enlightenment themselves or have their own enlightenment moment. And I'm like, I just don't agree with that. I love that children can read stories and learn for themselves. But there's still that adult, that mentor in their lives that's missing. If we're not going to sit down with the child and help them understand what they're reading in context, and not just that, but help them understand how to apply what they're reading. And I think that's really what I'm trying to do with my Parent Child Connect series. Is, again, put that parent or that adult, whoever it is, could be a teacher, a mentor, coach, whoever, trying to get them back into the child's life, trying to get them back with them, reading those books and enjoying that conversation with them. Because if nothing else, you're establishing a connection with them. And that connection means a lot when a child is going through tough times. You can't wait till they go through tough times to establish that connection. That connection starts with sometimes just reading a story.
Yeah, that's so true. How would any practical tips on how to help parents raise more emotionally resilient kids?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things I talk about, and this is just for parents out there um, who love being with their children and coaching them through things, I will say create scenarios for them to fail. We just talked about the brilliance in learning how to fail, but if you can create scenarios in the home, in this safe space, and their safe space, where they can fail and learn from those failures, I think you're going to help them build in resilience. I'll give you an example. So one day I told my son, "Hey, go out and take those boxes to the recycle bin." Now it was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 boxes. They're pretty large. And I already knew the recycle bin was probably about a half to maybe 3/4 full, which meant he either A, had to really break those boxes down and tear them apart, or B, go in and go back and pull all the boxes out of recycle bin and try to fold them a different way. But I didn't tell him how to do it. I just told him, "Hey, go get those boxes and put them in a recycle bin." And I laughed because about 20 minutes later, I see he and his buddy, they're in the yard and they're going crazy. They're like doing karate on these boxes. They're doing everything they can to break these boxes down. And it was just such a funny thing to see. But after about 30 minutes, and he was, I don't know, probably about 8 at the time, maybe 9, But after about 30 minutes, I can look back out there and they're still trying to figure it out. They're still working through it. So I walk out there and I sort of look at them like, hey, what you guys doing? We're trying to figure out how to get the boxes out. Okay. So I gave them some more time to figure it out. And I can tell they're starting to get frustrated, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted them to feel the frustration with dealing with a circumstance that is a little bit harder, or maybe you require a little help, maybe a little guidance, maybe you didn't understand what you're supposed to be doing. I wanted them to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable and perhaps even ask for assistance, right? These are the kind of things that I was trying to help them understand. And what he ended up doing eventually is he realized, man, the box has this little adhesive on the bottom. So maybe if we just take it apart and then fold the box, it works a lot better. Now, as adults, we would have come to that conclusion fairly quickly. But watching the 8 or 9-year-old work through that problem set helped me realize that, man, just that little thing of him failing over and over and over and trying it over and over again until he finally gets it. That moment he got it, you can just see the light bulb. You can see how excited he was because he finally got it. He tried something hard, according to him, and he got it, right? I believe that's how you build resilience. You have to put them in situations to where they try something hard and potentially fail. And if they can fail in their own safe space first, and they fail at home, then you can teach them. You can coach them through it. You get to the point to where you see them, perhaps they're starting to have diminishing returns. Maybe that's when you step in and maybe give them a hint or work them through it. But don't be too quick to stand over and tell them exactly how to get stuff solved, because I believe just those scenario-based is what we call in the Marine Corps, scenario-based training. Those scenarios allow them to grow and develop into more resilient adults. So find ways to let them fail. Find ways to allow them to figure out how to go from failure to success, and then watch them be able to have that bright, that enlightened look on their face, because they're going to be very excited that they were able to figure out something that was pretty hard to do.
Yeah, I love that idea. Like, I've seen so many people like make failure a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, failure. It's when we talk about failure, it does feel bad, and when you put it in public, oh man, that's tough to deal with because it's just tough when you fail publicly, because it's like, man, I can't believe that happened to me. Because now you feel like you're embarrassed, and there's other emotions that are piled on top of it. But I would say I've learned my best lessons from failure. I just don't believe that I would be where I am today if I didn't fail. And I don't believe I would be able to empathize with others and understand how to help them through their tough times if I didn't fail. One of my biggest failures, I laugh about it now, but it obviously wasn't funny at the time, is when my early training. Long story short, I ended up trying to climb this rope. As I was trying to climb the rope on this double obstacle course, I got to the second round, and I start climbing, and I get about 3/4 up top or somewhere around there. And I can see the log, maybe like 2 good more pulls, and I would have been able to slap the log and finish and come down. But I couldn't move. My shoulders were locked in place. I was gassed. And I'm like, man, you're actually about to fail this course in the highest place, because it's a 20-foot climb, 20-foot rope climb. I'm literally in the highest place in front of, I think, like a company of probably 200 plus people. And they're going to watch me dangling on this rope and then have to either like just stand here and fall off because I'm just too stubborn to come down, or have to come down without slapping the log. And that's where I was. I'm like shaking and holding this rope. But what that taught me is, number one, I had to become better at learning the techniques and growing through it. And then number two, I had to find myself just trying to become a little bit more intentional about how I trained and how I learned about my body and learned about all these things. And so really, those are the things that you learn just from failure. And I think that was probably one of the biggest lessons I was able to apply.
Yeah. How important do you think it is for kids to have dreams and goals?
Very important. And that's one of the things that we have to pay attention to, because a lot of times I think we go about our business and go about our days not realizing that these dreams and goals are where everything starts. That's where success starts. Finding ways to dream and offload those dreams onto paper, and then create a plan and then execute that plan. That's where it all starts, with having a dream and understanding what that dream is. And then you can't accomplish the dream without having goals. And those goals are what actually enable your dream to come to fruition.
Yeah. How can parents help foster that process?
He said that again. I'm sorry.
How can parents help foster that process?
Yeah, great question. So, one of the things that parents can do when they're trying to work through goals, and I would say the first thing you should do is listen to them. Because I think a lot of kids, when they start talking, we as parents sometimes we get tired of hearing them, right? And there's times where we're like, oh gosh, can you please, and you start saying things to them, and I believe that's probably where it starts. It starts with listening to the child and hearing what their goals are and allowing them to explain. So be an active listener, ask more questions, be a participant in everything they're saying. And then the second thing is sit down with them and understand what their goals are and then work with them through it. Don't allow them to tell you a goal that you're not willing to work through with them. Don't allow them to tell you a dream that you aren't willing to provide maybe a framework or some way of working through these things. So that way they continue to grow and develop. So that's really the biggest thing. It starts with active listening. And then secondly, it goes into just really defining ways that you can grow with them.
Yeah, great advice. You're currently working on the release of a new book, Lead Last. Can you tell us about it? You're currently working on the release of a new book, Lead Last. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Lead Last is born from a place of just trying to help people grow as leaders. So, I started off as a young guy, like I already told you. I'm in the Marine Corps, didn't know anything about the Marine Corps, just young, ambitious leader. And I knew that there were some things that I would have known. So, Lead Last is really created for emerging leaders who want to be better leaders, who want to learn how to, first of all, lead themselves and then lead others. So the way I structure the book is three parts, and there's 21 principles. I call them counterintuitive principles, and I'll explain why in a minute. But the first thing is learning who you are. So learning more about yourself, because I believe that's where it starts. Before you're able to lead, this is why it's lead last. Before you're able to lead, you have to learn about yourself. Learning how to grow through those insecurities that in many ways we never dealt with as children. So that's the first thing. The second thing is learning about who you're leading. And that's really what it's about. But before you can truly lead somebody, you have to know them. You have to know how they can be better, or what you're doing. What can you do to make them better people, make them better leaders? So that's the two things. And then the last part, the last seven principles are going to be surrounding creating a culture in which people can thrive and grow. So that's what Lead Last is all about. Is finding ways to not just do the things or understanding the things that you must do before you become a leader, but it's doing the things that it takes so you can leave a lasting impact on the organization that you're in. So, very excited about this book. Initially, I was going to self-publish, but since I've signed with Amplify Publishing Group, and right now we're just wrapping up the editing phase, and so I'm looking forward to releasing this book. I think it's going to help a lot of emerging leaders, and I believe it's going to be a great gift to those who are just starting off in their leadership journey.
Yeah, I love how you touched on that. Before you can lead anybody else, you got to first learn how to lead yourself.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's something I had to learn because there was just so many things that I had to learn about myself. There's so many things, as I already shared with you, that I had insecurities, and you don't know how those insecurities come up as an adult until you start to examine those things, until you start to write in your journal and start to think about these things. It's like, man, there's a lot of things that I was doing as an adult. In a lot of ways, I was dealing with situations, and even so much as an operations officer when I first, as a brand new lieutenant. And I was in for probably about a year and a half, and I became an operations officer at a company level. And man, I was in there I was barking at people, just telling people, this is what you're going to do. You will do this, blah, blah, blah. And because I thought that's what leadership looked like. And really what I had to learn is, number one, when you're doing that, people really see through it. They know who you are. They've met you. They understand who you are, and they can see through your ruse. And so it's really getting to know yourself and understanding how you can improve yourself before you go out and lead somebody else. Because that kind of leadership as an operations officer, it was technically effective. It was definitely getting people to do something. But what I realized is they were doing it not because they were committed to the mission or not because they were going to do it when I left. They were doing it so they won't be nagged. And that's really what it's all about, is finding ways to influence someone and not just scare them or have them doing stuff to avoid you nagging them. So
Yeah.
that's really the biggest thing we're trying to teach in Lead Last.
Yeah. What does leading last mean to you?
Yeah. So first of all, we all come in the room thinking we have to be the loudest ones, so we have to always have the answer. What I learned is that in many cases, the best leaders are behind us. The best leaders are underneath us, and that's what I realized. The leaders who I had, who had the biggest impact on my life, they were always by my side and they're always pushing me forward. They're like, "Hey, man, go out. You can do this. Hey, go do this. Go do this." And they were pushing me to be better than I was. And then when the time came, if they were the only time they were just out in front is when there was a problem, when there was a mistake made by the team. And that's when the true leader stood up and said, "Hey, this is my problem. I made that mistake." But man, when it's time to praise others, that's when, again, when it comes back to leading last, they get beneath you and they lift you up. And that's really what I've learned from some of the phenomenal leaders who've been in my life, is that it's not about being in the front and making all the noise, although that's what we love to see. We love to see it in Hollywood movies. One of my favorite movies is 300. And I promise that King Leonidas was not standing behind anybody throughout that entire movie. But what he was doing that we sometimes forget is that he was inspiring them to continue to go on. And that's what the whole movie 300 is about, is that he's inspiring an entire culture, an entire people to go be something and go be able to overcome some things. And that's really what it's all about. Leadership is about finding ways to inspire others instead of trying to be out front. So you're leading from behind.
Yeah, I love that. When's the book going to be released?
Yeah, we're looking at right now at early spring 2026 is a target goal for that.
Nice. How has your faith played a role in how you lead, teach, and serve?
Yeah, so my faith is extremely important. So one of the things that I've realized in my life is that having a something that's bigger than serving something bigger than myself, or someone, in this case, God, bigger than myself, has been the one thing that's got me through rough circumstances, both at home and at work. Because once you realize that no matter what you do or no matter what's going on in your life, there's somebody out there who wants the best for you, no matter who is saying what on earth. I think that's one of the things that just really helped me through. That's the first thing, is that there's always somebody who's looking out for my best interests. And that really struck home for me. That resonated with me, and that's what keeps me going, is knowing that there's always somebody who's looking out for Olaolu. And then the second thing is we're serving somebody who is higher than us. So no matter how much we go into these organizations, and sometimes, especially today, where we're just such in a divisive state, when you realize that, man, this isn't about you, it's not about anybody else out there, and it's about serving for a higher purpose, and everything that you do is to impact something that's way bigger than just you, and way bigger than the one person that you may be working for or the group of people you may be working for. And the second you start to embrace that, man, that truly does bring me joy. So when I have the opportunity to work with children, I have the opportunity to work with Marines, I know it's not just about that one Marine, because I know good and well that that one Marine may inspire 1,000 or 1,000,000. That one child may be the future president of the United States. I don't know. But that's really the impact, is that you know that because you're working for a higher purpose, everything that you do can have exponentially more impact than you can ever even imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy when you start thinking of it like that too.
Oh yeah, because I mean, that's one of the things that, again, as you start to work through these situations, and life will beat you up, but you start working through these situations, you're like, man, you know what? Everything's all right. You know, that one person that smiled back, and one example I always give is when I'm going through the gate. The one thing and on base, they have a checkpoint, and most people know this, but they check your ID, make sure you can come on base, and then they tell you to come on. Really, that's a transactional relationship, right? You show them your ID, and either A, you're going to come on, or B, they're going to tell you to turn around. But what I try to do my best, no matter what's going on in my life, is like pull up and say, "Good morning, how's it going?" And with a smile, and you'll be surprised how many of them like stop and like, "Oh man, what's up with this guy?" But the reason I do that is because I want to make them feel like they're somebody, right? And that all comes from my faith that if in some way, somehow, that when I'm doing that, somebody's going to be like, man, that really helped me. That really made my day. That guy actually asked me, how was I doing? And he stared at me until I gave him an answer. It wasn't
Yeah.
just like, hey, how you doing? And waiting for him to go by. He actually wanted to know how I'm doing, and he wanted to invest in my life. And again, that all comes from just having faith that that we all are here for each other. We all are there's good in the world. It's not as bad as the mainstream media makes it seem. We all
Yeah.
are out there. We're going to serve each other, and we all are living for a higher purpose.
Yeah, I love it. If there's one thing you hope the listeners walk away with from this conversation, what is it?
Yeah, that I think is right there where we're just talking. It's find a way to inspire somebody else, no matter what you're doing, whether it's just, even if it's just a smile at somebody. And if you have children in your life, man, that's what my Parent Child Connect project is all about. That's what the book series, that's what the platform is all about. It's about finding children, going out and being a part of their lives, mentoring them. And so if you want to find ways that find resources, go to my website. I'm at parent-child-connect.com. And I want you to go out there and go to all the resources. I actually do have a content partnership with YouVersion where I provide Bible plans. I have free resources that you can download, that you can actually work with children through. Of course, you can find my children's books, my blog. I have all that stuff out there, all those resources out there. And I'm continually trying to build relationships with other organizations and schools and people so that way we continue to grow. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing I want people to know, that we all have a part to play, and nobody can reach the person that you're going to be able to reach. And that's one thing I always think about. It's like, I'm going to be able to reach somebody that Ryan can't reach, excuse me. And it's vice versa. Ryan, you're going to be able to reach many more people that I can't reach at all. And so if we all just come together and just do our part, man, we can make this world way better than it is today.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most profound things when I was talking with my priest when he told me, he goes, God saved you for a reason because you can get places that I can't even go. And like that coming from like a man of God, you're just like, wow, you're right. I can get places that other people can't.
Yeah,
And it just
that's something.
like,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, that's something we talk about as in the Marine Corps, in the military. We talk about placement and access. And that's really what it's all about. Every last one of us gets saved, and we have our purpose in life for placement and access. Like, again, there's places that I will go, and that you will go, and that other people that are listening to this will go, that we just won't even overlap. A lot of us will never meet each other, but we have the ability to go reach somebody else. And the way we say things, the way our stories are so much different. You talked about growing up in a household with no father. That means there's young men out there who are in the same predicament they're going to resonate with you as they're listening to you. They're like, man, this guy's story means something to me. And so you're talking about growing through the fire or going through the fire. Now, this is one of those things that I know that Ryan, you're going to reach, because Olaolu's father was there, right? He came from
Yeah.
Nigeria, and he invested in my life, and he made sure. But Ryan, you have a story that's extremely important, and your priest is spot on, because it's going to reach people and resonate with people that I can never reach. And that's why I say that we all have a part to play, and we should never downgrade our part. And that's why I love what you're doing with this podcast, and I appreciate you allowing me to come on. Because I realize that you are reaching people and doing some phenomenal things, no matter what people think, no matter how people look at all the other things going on in the world. Again, these kind of platforms, especially doing the podcast where people can pick it up around the world, it's really touching lives. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this.
Hey, thank you for coming on. Hey, and I appreciate your kind words too.
Yeah, of course.
How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way is to go to my website. It's parent-child-connect.com. And if you want to reach me, go to the contact section, send me a note. I would love to reach back out to you. I may not get to it as fast as I used to, but I definitely will get to it and do my best to connect with you. I love connecting with people on social media. All my links are on my contact page on parent-child-connect.com. So I look forward to connecting with people. I love connecting with people around the world.
Yeah, and I'll put all that in the show notes too. Is there anything we haven't covered that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think we covered it all. I think you did a phenomenal job. And again, this is what this is all about. It's about finding a way to grow through life circumstances. I think we all came through adversity, and I believe that we all can come together and just help each other overcome our adversity.
Yep. Okay, final question. What is one piece of advice you'd like to leave our listeners with about overcoming adversity?
Perfect question. One piece of advice is to face it. You can't run from it. I learned that from actually one of the greatest Disney, let me rephrase, the greatest Disney movie of all times, The Lion King, is that when Rafiki swung at Simba and he hit him on the head. A lot of you may not remember that scene, but it happened. And he said, life is hard, but you can either learn from it or run from it. And that's one of the things that I would leave. So going through adversity is about not deciding to run from it. First of all, face your challenges, face your adversity, and then find a way to go through it, because you can't spend life running away from adversity.
Hey, that is a great answer. I've also found out that when you run away from it, that it's just going to show back up again the next
Mhm.
time.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So you might as well face it. Olaolu, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your insight into leadership. And thank you for all that you do.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Again, it's an honor, and I definitely appreciate you.
Well, guys, that's going to be all the time we have here today. Remember, the only way to get what you want is go through the fire.